everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a full review of the new Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate foundation. So before I get into the information about the foundation, I am back and I'm going to do the best that I can through all the sadness. Some of you know, some of you don't know, but my grandfather passed away last week, and he was my best friend and he was my world, and it was unexpected and it was really hard for me. He's just been the light of my life my entire life. We just had a very special relationship. So I appreciate all of the love and the support that you all have shown me throughout this break, and it's been rough. All of us lose our loved ones and it's so hard, and you just try to take it day by day, and it's been really rough. You guys know, if you've lost a loved one, you know it's very, very hard. And I am back and I'm going to do the best that I can to not have any sadness. I tried to film yesterday and I was not in the right frame of mind yesterday. So I watched a bunch of happy things today and tried to get my mind into a happy place. So hopefully throughout this video, no sadness will peek through. Fingers crossed. But I want to thank each and every one of you for reaching out. All of the messages throughout this week has just been so amazing, and all the support. You guys are my family. I love you to pieces. So thank you to each and every one of you that reached out and just said, hey, I'm thinking of you. I love you. It meant so, so much. I know my grandfather would want me to get back to work, and he was a hard worker. He believed in working hard. So I'm going to get back to work, bottom line. Okay, so let's jump into the information about this foundation. So this foundation retails for $150. Now, full disclosure, I was not planning on even buying this because I was kind of like, I didn't understand the major jump in price. I mean, that's a big increase. And it was just it kind of upset me. I was like, what is the deal? Like, are you totally taking advantage of us? Like, I don't get this. Now, don't get me wrong. The packaging is absolutely beautiful on this. And it has this really pretty, like, magnetic lid on it. Packaging is spectacular. But for me, I would rather have something that was more affordable than fancy packaging. Fancy packaging doesn't mean anything to me, and the consumer always pays for all of that fancy packaging. So anyway, in the video, I am going to do price comparisons to the other Tom Ford foundations. You guys know I like to break down prices and all of that. But I have been wearing this foundation. This is the 7th or 8th day. I wore this the entire time I was on break. I wore it to the funeral. I wore it to the viewing. I wore it while I was crying. I wore it for several hours. I know how this wears. This is definitely not my first impression. And you guys know that I don't like to test out a foundation for one day and come on here and talk to you guys about it anyways. I like to test them out and really test them out for several days, just to get a really good idea about the foundation before I come on here and tell you. So with all that said, because I know how this works and how it wears, in the video, I decided to compare it to the Traceless Stick Foundation from Tom Ford. Now, we all know that this retails for $88, but you only get half the product. So this is 0.5 ounces worth of product, and this is a full ounce. So there are 40 shades in this foundation. I waited to buy this on the Nordstrom website, and there's a reason. I have bought from Tom Ford website before, and my experience was not the best. And because the Tom Ford products are so expensive, if you get the wrong shade or if it's something that you don't like, Tom Ford doesn't really have the best return policy. And I waited until this was available on the Nordstrom website for a reason, because I knew that if I got the wrong shade, I could take it and get me the right shade, and they would be very helpful and accommodating. This is exclusively right now sold at the Tom Ford website and boutiques, and also at Nordstrom's. Now, I'm not sure when this will be coming to like Sephora and Beautylish and all of that. If you decide to buy this, I would buy it at Nordstrom's personally. Okay, so let's get into the details. Like I said, it comes with 40 different shades. It is a medium to full coverage foundation with 3-dimensional radiance that reflects soft light. The fade-resistant, moisturizing, nourishing, and protecting formula contains a blend of advanced elastomers and light diffusing powders to create the perfect radiant surface. Designed to create the appearance of flawless looking skin, This foundation also nourishes with breathable protection. It is infused with hyaluronic acid to moisture for a plump, dewy look. So I've also heard that this has a lot of, skincare benefits. It does have SPF of 50. I've heard several people say, well, the reason why they did a price increase is because it has more skincare ingredients. I heard that there was great skincare ingredients in this Tom Ford. This is the Soleil Glow Foundation. And this one also has SPF of 30. I've heard this one had great skincare ingredients. I would have preferred them to keep the regular skincare ingredients that they have in all of their foundations and let me handle my own skincare instead of releasing something and, increasing the price by a significant amount. That's just my preference. So let's jump into the price breakdown. So let's first start with the Shade and Illuminate, the new one. It retails, like I said, for $150. You get 1 fluid ounce, which is 30 mils, and that makes it $5 per milliliter. The Traceless Stick Foundation is $88, and it is 0.5 ounces, which is 15 grams. And that makes it $5.87 per gram. So the stick foundation is more money than this Shade and Illuminate. Soleil Flawless Glow Foundation, it retails for $88 for 1 fluid ounce, 30 milliliters. And that makes it $2.93 per milliliter. Also, if we want to talk about the Traceless Perfecting Foundation, it retails for $88, and that's for a full ounce, 30 mils, and that's also $2.93 per milliliter. So I understand that we're saving a little bit of money when it comes to the stick foundation versus this new one, but almost a double price increase between, the Soleil and the Traceless Perfecting Liquid Foundation compared to this one. So I don't know. It doesn't really sit well with me. I don't really like that. I don't like those big price increases, but we're going to see how this formula wears. We're going to compare it to this stick foundation. We're going to see how it performs. And also in the end of the video, I will also give my comparisons between the Estee Lauder Futurist Hydra Rescue Foundation. I know that there's been several people that have said that these are very similar. I don't necessarily fully agree with that. There are some similarities, but I do think the texture is different. So I will definitely get into that later on in the video. So that's all the information. Let's go ahead and jump into the applications. You guys can see how I apply, the Traceless Stick Foundation next to this new Shade and Illuminate. So without further ado, let's jump right into the application. We're going to put the Shade and Illuminate on this side, and we're going to put the stick on this side. I'm curious how it wears next to this one. It has more of a thicker texture, so it's a little bit harder to buff out. It almost feels like the stick foundation, but in a liquid form, because if you've ever used the Tom Ford stick foundation, you will know that when you put it on, it's not as creamy as some of the other stick foundations that I have. It's a little bit tougher to get it to buff out, but once you start buffing it, it's just gorgeous. That's why it's one of my top favorite foundations. Now, I do have the exact same shade in both the stick foundation and the Shade and Illuminate. So it is 7.5 Shell Beige. So I have them in both the exact same shade, and they truly are the same shade. I've heard that there are some discrepancies from the shades of this foundation compared to these, but for me personally, these are the exact same shade. So I've already prepped my skin with the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base, and I'm going to put 1 pump here on the back of my hand just so you guys can see the texture of this and the consistency as it runs down my hand. Don't mind this. I burned myself. Ugh, it hurts so bad. But that's the consistency. The way that I've been enjoying applying this foundation is I like to take my brush and just buff it into my skin and then go over it with a sponge. I do have to go over this with a sponge when I use a brush, especially if my brush is dirty, like this one is dirty, just because it does show brush marks. Okay, we have you guys zoomed in. Let's go ahead and start. Now, this 7.5 Shell Beige, you guys know that I like my foundations to be more on the warmer side, but the warmer shades in the Tom Ford foundation are too warm for me. So this one is a little bit more on the neutral side, and it does work for me. If it's too warm, it just does not look good. but this color actually just blends right into my skin. Now I will say I like to use one pump pretty much of foundations, but with this foundation, I feel like I have to use all over my face 2 pumps. So it seems like one pump will do one side of my face and another pump. So keep that in mind when you are going through the cost of this foundation. You know, keep that in mind when you're considering buying this. I prefer to use only one pump, but for some reason with this foundation, I need 2 pumps. And I mean, you can see that that just melts into the skin and just really becomes the skin, which is the one thing that I have really enjoyed about this foundation, is that it does just really melt beautifully. I would say this is a foundation you can build up to a full coverage. I wouldn't say it's full coverage right off the bat. You know, so for those of you that like a medium coverage, you can definitely achieve a medium coverage with this foundation. But for those of you that like a full coverage, you can probably get a full coverage. It's going to take you a minute to build it. Okay, so there we are. And I think that looks really beautiful. You can see it still has that illuminating look to it. It does look really pretty. I mean, this is a foundation that does go on very beautifully, and it does work. I mean, it's beautiful when you first apply it. It's just absolutely beautiful. There are some things throughout the day that I don't like, which I will get into. But as far as the way that it applies, I mean, it really does a good job. It just like melts. Let's move on to the stick foundation. So what I like to do is just do a few stripes like that, and then I start kind of building it as I need. Now this one, it takes a minute to really start buffing it. You know, it's one of those foundations that you really have to kind of get in there and buff it out. But the warmth from your face and stuff will buff it out pretty quickly. You're going to need to build coverage with the stick foundation the exact same way that you would the Shade and Illuminate. All right, so I'm going to go over it with a sponge and just kind of push it into the skin. I do need to mention this. So I know that there's a lot of people out there using the Blendifuls for, you know, applying their foundations and stuff. And I have applied my foundations with the Blendiful plenty of times. For me, I can't use the Blendiful with this foundation. The reason is because I need the dampness from this sponge to like press it into the skin. And with the Blendiful, you don't get that. It's almost like you have to, I don't know, it just doesn't give me that skin-like feeling. I think both sides look really good. The thing that I will notice, and I don't know if my camera is going to pull it up, but I'm going to pull forward in just a minute. Right away, the difference between these 2 foundations is the way that it lays over texture. And this area right here is where I am starting to show my age the most. So I get Botox on my forehead, so of course it's more smooth. I get Botox around here, so it's more smooth. This right here is, I don't have anything done, okay? There is nothing helping out that situation. I have texture in this area from, you know, just having hormonal acne. And this is kind of that creepy skin kind of coming up. And you'll have those little teeny tiny wrinkles that you start getting in this area. The thing that I will point out right away, this stick foundation looks so much better over this area than the Shade and Illuminate. Okay, so right now it is 9:41 a.m. So I'm gonna go ahead and go about my day and, you know, finish the rest of my makeup. I will, I have some errands to run, so I will take the camera with me, take it out so you guys can see what it looks like in natural daylight. And then I will come back later on this evening after wearing it for 12 hours and we will, you know, look at both sides, examine them, and let you guys know how this compares to the stick foundation and my overall thoughts on this foundation. So I will see you guys in my next check-in. Okay, you guys, it is almost 5 o'clock, and I had to run some errands. I'm in my daughter's car. In fact, I need to turn off the heated seat because my butt is on fire. Anyway, I didn't want to pull my car out of the garage, so I just grabbed her car. Getting back from, doing a few errands around town, and I wanted to pop on here and have you guys see what this looks like before the sun goes down. The foundation looks pretty good. I would say the only difference that I'm seeing, and I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but again, this is the Shade and Illuminate side. So let me pull it back a little bit. This is the Shade and Illuminate, the new Tom Ford foundation. This is that side. And then this is the stick foundation. So this is the Traceless stick foundation side. I would say this side looks just a little bit more makeup-y than the Traceless stick foundation. I feel like stick foundation just looks a little bit more on the natural side. On this side, you can actually see it's a little bit more makeup-y. And I do not like the way that it sits in this creepy skin area. I feel like it doesn't always, the whole time I've worn it every day, I have not loved the way that it looks like right here in this area. Like this side looks pretty good. And this is the stick foundation side. And of course you can still see all my texture, but I don't feel like it emphasizes my texture quite like the Shade and Illuminate. The other thing that I'm not liking that I'm noticing is, and I don't know if it was the way that they were blended together, I'm not exactly sure. And I hope it will show up on camera. Let's see if we can get, so there's a little there's like a makeup patch right here. I don't know if it's gonna show up. I won't know until I look at the footage, but there's a little patch right here that I do not love. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I don't even know if it's showing up, but it's got this like patch right here in this area. I hope it's showing up. Like this side looks really good and just more on the natural side. This side looks kind of makeup-y and kind of heavy, and then I've got this patch right here that I do not love. I hope that this footage was helpful for you guys. It's still gonna take me a minute to learn how to do this, but fingers crossed I'll figure it out. But so that's it for this check-in. I'm gonna jump off of here. I will see you guys in my 12-hour check-in and give you guys the full thoughts and my full rundown on both of these foundations, and I will see you guys then. Okay, everyone, I am back to give you guys my thoughts and do a 12-hour check-in. It is currently just after 11. I've officially had both of these foundations on for 12 hours. Let's pull you guys in so you guys can see, what this is looking like, and then I will get into my final thoughts. Okay, so this is the Shade and Illuminate side. So this is the new foundation, and then this is the stick foundation side, the Traceless stick. So first up, this has bugged me all day, and I haven't really looked at the footage yet to see if it showed up, but I don't know if you can see this patchiness I have going on right here, but it kind of drove me nuts all day long. And this side looks pretty good. This side does look a little bit makeup-y like it did earlier today, or it's gathered up around here around my hairline. Looks a little bit makeup-y. This side doesn't look that way, maybe a little bit, but nothing like the other side. And then, of course, this is, if I'm gonna lose coverage and my foundation starts to break away right here in this area. I don't know if you guys are like that, but it's always around my nose and right around my mouth where my foundation just really breaks away. But the Traceless always holds up very well, and it always fades very naturally. On this side, I feel like this doesn't look bad. It doesn't, I think this side looks much more natural than this side. This side doesn't look bad though. I think it looks okay, but I don't think it looks the best. Like looking in the mirror straight on, this looks kind of makeup-y and textured. This side just looks just kind of more natural and just faded. And I don't know if it's pulling up on the camera. But right here. Okay, so now that we've done the close-ups, let me get into my final thoughts. I still love the stick foundation more than I do this new one. I mean, it's been apparent through the midday check-in and the 12-hour check-in and every day that I've worn this. Don't get me wrong, I I like this foundation. I do think it's a beautiful foundation. And I do think that it would work for a variety of different people. In fact, even if you have oily skin, I think if you powder it good, I think you'll be fine. I do think this is a well-rounded type of foundation. The thing that I love about it is that it sets down, it doesn't feel tacky and sticky throughout the day, but you still get that luminous look to your skin. So I do like that. I don't like how makeup-y it is, and I have a feeling it's because I have to use more than one pump, but the problem is I have to use that much to make it work. It's one of those that's a little bit thicker of a formula, and it's a little bit doesn't go a long way with this one. It's almost like I have to use a little bit more to really spread the foundation evenly on my skin. So I don't know if that's the reason why it gets a little bit makeup-y, but I will say though, when I wore this to the viewing and the funeral, which were horrible days of me crying and just, you know how they are, especially when you lose someone that you are very close with, it is very rough. And the foundation held up really well. It did. I have to admit, it did look really pretty. And so I like this. But I still, in my personal opinion, I don't know that it is fully worth $150. Because here's the thing. Even now that I've like broke down the price comparisons between these two foundations, the stick foundation is more money. At the end of the day, the stick foundation is more money than the shade and Illuminate, but I'm still fine with paying it because I love this that much. That's what I was looking for. When I buy an expensive product like that, it's a splurge. And I'm okay with splurging as long as it's worth it. As long as I love the way it looks and it looks so beautiful on my skin and I feel comfortable in my own skin wearing it, then it's worth the splurge. This one, I like it and I'm gonna keep it. I will keep it. I don't think I'll return it. So I like it enough to keep it. But to do it over again, I don't know that I would spend the money on it. I just don't love it enough to say, oh, it's fully worth $150 all day long. I don't have that vibe with it. I think it's beautiful. I think it is a nice foundation. For those of you that love Tom Ford, I think you'll really enjoy this. But if you're somebody out there that you have been, you know, wanting to know what the hype is and is it really worth $150 of my hard-earned money? Like, is that foundation really that good? I don't necessarily think that this checks that box. That's just me personally. I think it's pretty, but I just don't know that it's worth it. But if you love Tom Ford and you love, you know, splurging on Tom Ford products, I think you'll enjoy this. Still love the stick foundation way more, way more. I would say this is a 10 and this is like a 7, if that helps. So this is a full 10, best of the best. And this is a 7. It's not quite a 10. Okay, now my comparison thoughts to the Estee Lauder Futurist Hydra Rescue Foundation. I like this one more. I think this one melts into the skin a little bit better. So there's a lot of differences between these two foundations, which I haven't really watched a lot of reviews on this, only because I've been so busy with the funeral and all of that. I just have not really been on YouTube. There's a lot of differences between these two. This one has like a dry oil texture, and it kind of stays tacky for a minute. Like, I have to set this with powder. I can't wear this without powder. I have to set it. This one sets down. I don't necessarily have to wear powder with this one. And on those dry days, I could definitely get away with just wearing this without even needing to powder it. This Estee Lauder foundation is definitely one that I have to wear powder with. And if I'm not careful, this can also get a little bit makeup-y. I don't really feel like the texture is the same. So, meaning I feel like this one is a much liquidy type of foundation, and the Tom Ford is much thicker of a formula. And this one, this is the Estee Lauder, this is the Tom Ford. You can see this one's just really running down the hand. This one has a very dry oil texture. And as you rub it between your fingers, you can feel it has that oil in it. Tom Ford doesn't have the oil. The Tom Ford is more of just a thicker, creamier foundation. And I will say, I do think that the Tom Ford is a little bit more radiant than the Estee Lauder. If I had to pick, I still think I like the Estee Lauder better, only just because of the price. If this one was the same price as this one, I'd probably still choose the Estee Lauder. That's just me. Now, this Tom Ford Stick Foundation is still my holy grail, way over this one. This one's a beautiful foundation, don't get me wrong. It's beautiful. And if you can't, if your budget does not allow you to splurge on a product like this, then I recommend the Estee Lauder. If you know, because I've been there where my budget just did not allow me to buy an $88 foundation. I hear you loud and clear. If that is not in your budget, the Estee Lauder is absolutely beautiful. Okay, so let's do the scale from 1 to 10. The Tom Ford Stick Foundation being 10, you know, the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate being a 7. I would probably say the Estee Lauder is an 8. So that's kind of where I stand. I think all three of them are really great foundations. And the only thing I would say though, the Estee Lauder, I would not really recommend this for oily skin. I feel like this would just be way too tacky and sticky for oily skin. It might look beautiful for an hour or two, but I just don't know that this is going to be long lasting on somebody with oily skin unless you really, you know, unless you set it really good. But I do think that the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate would actually work pretty good for oily because it's a thicker formula and it sets down. And so again, I just don't see a lot of the similarities between these two, but you know, we all see something different, which is why it's so important to have so many different people that you watch and people that you trust, because we all have a different experience. We all have different skin. We all have different types of skin, and we're all needing something different from our foundations. And so that's why it's always important to watch several reviews from, you know, your trusted YouTubers so that you can really know that you are making a informed, educated buying decision, which is the most important when it boils down to it. That's my thoughts on this foundation. So I hope that this review was helpful for you guys. Again, thank you all for all your love. It means so much to me. I'm trying to get out of my funk. I'm just sad. I'm just sad. And I hope that, you know, I wasn't too sad in this video. I'm hoping that my bubbly personality starts to come back out again. It's just going to take a minute, you know? Anyways, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I hope that you all have a wonderful weekend filled with love and joy, and I will see you guys in my next video, and I love you all so much. Bye.